Hello and welcome to the UPSC Mains PYQ series by Shikara Academy. In this series, we are discussing all the GS Mains questions asked by UPSC over the past few years. So, in continuation of this series, in today's session, we will be discussing the 2022 GS Paper 2 from question 6 to question 10. Okay, so we'll discuss 5 answers today. Now, starting with the first question, that is question number 6. The Gati Shakti Yojana needs meticulous coordination between the government and the private sector to achieve the goal of connectivity. Discuss. A 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Now, mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of governance, and the topic is government policies and interventions for development of various sectors. Okay, so it is a scheme for infrastructure and for connectivity. Okay. So the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that because the question is talking about the Gati Shakti Yojana. So in introduction, we describe the Gati Shakti Yojana. Okay. Then in body, we address the demand of the question by writing the role of government and private sector coordination. Okay. Why this coordination is important. Then we'll write a forward-looking conclusion. Okay. We'll just highlight the role of the coordination. Okay. Then we'll write in conclusion that how we can enhance that coordination, the forward-looking conclusion. Now, in introduction, we can start by writing the PM Gati Shakti Master Plan launched in 2021. It aims to create an integrated multimodal infrastructure network for efficient logistics and seamless connectivity. It emphasizes synergy among various ministries and sectors to reduce cost and the time in transportation. Okay. So that was about the Gati Shakti Master Plan or the Gati Shakti Yojana in brief. Then, what is the role or what is the significance of this government private sector coordination in the implementation of this Gati Shakti Yojana? So first is the infrastructure development. The government provides the policy direction. The government will provide the policy direction. Government will also provide the digital platforms and the regulatory framework. Okay, so policy making and the regulatory framework will be provided by the government. The private sector will bring efficiency, innovation, and investment. Okay, so the private sector will bring innovation, technology, investment, finance, and overall efficiency in implementation. Then there is data and technology integration. So private firms' expertise in GIS mapping, analytics, and project management support government's master planning efforts. Okay, so planning will be done by the government, and the other expertise of the private sector, like the GIS mapping, the analytics, the private analytics, as well as the project management experience of the private sector, will be deployed. Then the public-private partnerships. So the joint ventures, there's joint ventures between the public sector, okay, the government sector, as well as the private sector. These joint ventures can accelerate the construction of the industrial corridors like ports, railways, and logistics hub. Then skill and employment creation. So the private participation, okay, the private sector's participation will help in job creation and in bridging the skill gap for infrastructure maintenance as well as the overall operations. Okay, so that these are the four main points uh, which highlight the role of or the significance of government private sector coordination in implementation of the Gati Shakti Yojana. So then in conclusion, we can write a way forward or we can write a forward looking conclusion. The effective coordination between government and the private sector, okay, is essential for realizing the Gati Shakti vision of holistic connectivity and economic transformation. Okay. And this collaboration between the government sector as well as the private sector, this will ensure timely implementation, optimal resource use, as well as long-term infrastructural sustainability. Okay, so that will be the significance of the entire coordination between the private sector as well as the public sector or the government. Then moving on to the next question, that is question number 7. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 remains only a legal document without intense sensitization of government functionaries and citizens regarding disability. Comment. Okay, so we are given a statement in the question and we have to comment on that statement. And the question is about the rights of persons with disabilities. Now, this is a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of social justice. Okay. And the topic is welfare schemes for vulnerable sections of the population. And here we are talking about the vulnerable sections, that is persons with disabilities. Now, the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that in introduction, we will write about this, or will describe this act. Okay, we'll describe the act, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. Then in body, we address the demand of question, because we have to comment. So then we have to analyze the issues, we have to highlight the challenges, and we need to also provide a way forward. Okay, so that's for a statement. If we have to comment, so we have to provide these three dimensions, that is the issues that are the issues and challenges, and the way forward. Then in conclusion, we will summarize the answer. So starting with the introduction, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. It aims to ensure equality, dignity, and inclusion of persons with disabilities in all spheres of life. However, the effective implementation of this act remains limited. Okay, so we have to agree that it is limited. And why it is limited? Because of inadequate awareness and sensitization among the government officials as well as the citizens. Okay, so we need to highlight the cause also. Okay, why the implementation is limited. Then in body, we have to write the issues, and we have to highlight the issues as well as challenges that is associated with the this lack of sensitization. Okay, so many government officials are unaware of the provisions of accessibility, reservation, and non-discrimination. Then there is poor infrastructure. Okay, so the public spaces and the transport systems, they often remain non-accessible to the person with disabilities despite the legal mandates. Okay, so there is poor infrastructure or lack of infrastructure. Then social stigma. There are deep-rooted prejudices and misconceptions about the disability which hinder the overall social inclusion. Okay, the social stigma, the taboos that is associated with a person with disability. Then there are implementation gaps. There are absence of training and monitoring mechanisms weakens the enforcement at the local levels. Okay, so even at the center level, there is some sort of sensitization, but at the local and the grassroots level, the level of sensitization is really, really poor. Okay. So then we can write a way forward that in order to overcome these issues and challenges, we need to conduct awareness campaigns and capacity building programs for government employees. Then include disability education in schools and civic institutions. The third point is strengthen monitoring and accountability through independent bodies. Okay. So for these issues and challenges, we can write the way forward. Then in conclusion, okay, drawing on or building on the way forward, we can summarize the answer by writing, without genuine sensitization, this RPWD Act, it risks remaining merely a legal document. Okay, so the act will remain a mere legal document. True empowerment, okay, true empowerment of the persons with disabilities, empowerment will require an empathy-driven governance and an inclusive societal mindset. Okay, an inclusive mindset of the society and an empathy-driven governance or of the government officers or the government officials. Now, moving on to the next question, that is question number 8. Reforming the government delivery system through the direct benefit transfer scheme is a progressive step, but it has limitations to comment. Okay. So, another question of 10 marks that we have to answer in 150 words. Now, this is a question on the topic of or on the scheme of the direct benefit transfer scheme. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked on the subject of governance, and the topic is important aspects of governance, transparency, and accountability. And the core question is on DBT scheme. Now, the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that in introduction, we describe the direct benefit transfer scheme, what actually is in there in this scheme. Then in body of the answer, Okay, we have to address the demand of the question because we have to comment. Okay, so if we have to comment, so we have to highlight both the points. Okay, we have to highlight the progressive aspects, the positive things, as well as the limitations that are there in this scheme. And because we are highlighting limitations in the body without giving a way forward or without writing a way forward in the body, then in conclusion, our conclusion should contain the recommendations or the way forward, or it should be forward looking. Then starting with the introduction, the direct benefit transfer scheme that was launched in 2013, it aims to reform India's welfare delivery system by transferring subsidies and benefits directly into the beneficiaries' bank accounts. Okay, so that's the basic crux of the or the basic rationale behind the DBT scheme. Now, this DBT scheme, it integrates Aadhaar, banking, and mobile technology. Okay, so it integrates Aadhaar, banking, and mobile technology to promote efficiency and transparency, and it is also known as the JAM Trinity. Okay, so for additional half a mark in the answer, you can draw an overlapping diagram like this. Okay, and here you can write Aadhaar, the banking, the Jan Dhan account, okay, and the mobile technology. Okay, the mobile. This is Jan Dhan. Okay, and then you can write DBT here. Okay, so it is at the overlap of Aadhaar, banking, and mobile. Now, the progressive aspects or the positive things about this DBT scheme is that there has been a reduction in leakages. Okay, it minimizes corruption. DBT minimizes corruption, direct benefit transfer. It also minimizes duplication and the ghost beneficiaries. Then there is timely delivery of the funds. Okay. So it ensures faster and more transparent dispersal of the funds. Okay, so no intermediaries are there, no middlemen are there. Directly from the central government of the state government, with the funds that are allocated are directly going into the bank accounts. Then there is financial inclusion. It promotes digital banking and access to the formal financial systems. Okay, so the DBT also one of the core objective of the DBT scheme is to increase the financial inclusion in the country. Okay, and it overall leads to the financial empowerment of the population. Okay, so it provides the beneficiaries with direct control over their entitlements and over their money. But there are certain limitations. The biggest one is the digital divide. Okay, so for any of the digital schemes, okay, or for any of the schemes uh, that is related to the digital sector, okay, or which has a component related to the digital sector. Okay. So this digital divide is the one of the biggest limitation. Okay. So this scheme, it excludes those without access to technology. Okay. If a certain section of population do not have the access to technology, internet or the bank accounts, so they are excluded. Then there are Aadhaar related errors or the Aadhaar related issues. So errors in authentication and seeding causes delay and the exclusion. Okay. So if there are some Aadhaar mismatch issues like that, okay, so the money is not then credited into the bank accounts, and the person faces severe grievances. Then there are infrastructure gaps. The poor banking penetration, especially in the rural areas, hinders the effective delivery. Finally, the administrative challenges. The lack of grievance redressal and local capacity affects the implementation, the overall implementation of the scheme. Then, in conclusion, uh, we can we can give a recommendation or we can write a way forward that while DBT makes a progressive leap in welfare governance, okay, it makes a positive leap or a progressive leap, but its success depends on inclusive digital access, robust infrastructure, and a continuous monitoring to ensure no deserving beneficiary is left out. Okay, so going forward, we need to ensure digital access, the robust infrastructure, and a continuous monitoring of the implementation of the scheme, so that we can ensure that no deserving beneficiary is left out of the scheme. Then moving on to the next question, that is question number 9. India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Discuss India's role in the recent crisis in Sri Lanka in light of the preceding statement. Okay, so this question is from the year 2022. Okay, and in 2022, Sri Lanka faced a severe financial crisis during the month of March, April, and May. Okay, and the question was asked in the month of September in the mains paper. Okay, so it was a quite current affairs based question. Now, mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of international relations. That the topic is India and neighborhood relations, that mainly India Sri Lanka relations. Okay, it's a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Now, the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that, and because this question is based on current affairs, okay, it has been asked from current affairs. So, we will describe the recent developments, okay, recent developments related to that time, that time period. Then in body, we address the demand of the question by writing India's assistance during the crisis. How did India assist Sri Lanka as an age-old friend during its financial crisis? And then in conclusion, we will summarize the answer. Okay. So starting with the introduction, India and Sri Lanka share deep-rooted historical, cultural, and economic ties. As an age-old friend and neighbor, India has consistently extended support to Sri Lanka in times of need. The recent economic crisis, the recent financial crisis in Sri Lanka, once again demonstrated India's commitment to its friendship with Sri Lanka. So then we can write what India actually did. So there are 4 points. We provided the financial support. India provided an assistance worth $4 billion in 2022, including the lines of credit for fuel, food, and medicines. Then we also provide humanitarian aid. India supplied essential commodities such as food and the medicines, including rice and life-saving drugs and fuel under its neighborhood first policy. Okay, so the assistance of Sri Lanka by India during this crisis is a excellent example, is an excellent case study of India's neighborhood first policy. Then there is diplomatic and technical support. So India backed Sri Lanka's efforts for international financial assistance. Okay, so we provided backing to Sri Lanka when it was knocking the doors of the international institutions asking for financial assistance, particularly from the IMF, and encouraged economic reforms in the country. Then there is long-term cooperation. India also emphasized sustainable growth through investment in energy, infrastructure, and digital sectors to aid Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Then, in conclusion, we can summarize India's role by writing India's timely and multifaceted support during Sri Lanka's crisis reaffirmed its role as a reliable, a compassionate partner. Okay, reflecting truly a neighborly spirit, India's assistance strengthened the bilateral relations and underscored its commitment to regional stability and the mutual prosperity. Then moving on to the final question, that is question number 10. Do you think BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like the SARC? Okay. What are the similarities and dissimilarities between the two? How are Indian foreign policy objectives realized by forming this new organization? Okay, a 10-mark question that we have to answer in 150 words. Now, mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of international relations, and the topic is important international institutions, agencies, and fora. Okay, or the groups of in which India is a part, a group of countries of which India is a part. Then the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that in introduction, we describe both the bodies, that is both the groupings, that is the BEAMSTEC as well as the SARC. And in body, we address the demand of question by writing the similarities between BEAMSTEC and SARC, the dissimilarities between the BEAMSTEC and SARC, and how this BIMSTEC it fulfills India's foreign policy objectives. Okay, what is the impact of this BIMSTEC on India's foreign policy objectives? And then in conclusion, we will summarize the answer. Starting with the introduction, we can write BIMSTEC, or the full form, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, and SARC, that is South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, are regional groupings. Okay, so these are the regional groupings that are aimed at fostering cooperation among South and Southeast Asian nations. Okay, both of them they promote regional integration, but BIMSTEC is often viewed as a more functional alternative to SARC uh, because of the India Pakistan conflict. The SARC as an organization, we can say it has not been very successful. Okay, so it has been hijacked by the Pakistan and in India conflict, and no positive or productive outcomes are coming out of SARC. Okay, so India then shifted its focus on BIMSTEC, that is on the Southeast Asian countries. So the similarities between the BIMSTEC and SARC, so both aim to enhance the regional cooperation in terms of trade, technology, and culture. And India is a key member to both the organizations. Okay, India is the largest country, is the largest power, is the biggest power in both these groupings. That is, be it the SARC or the BIMSTEC. Then both these groups they focus on poverty reduction and the sustainable development. The dissimilarities is in membership. SARC includes South Asian nations, including Pakistan. Okay, in SARC, Pakistan is there, but BIMSTEC it links South and Southeast Asia. Okay, it is not only limited. Okay, it's not limited to South Asia only. It is extending to Southeast Asia, and it very importantly it excludes Pakistan. Okay, it excludes the perpetual nuisance that is the Pakistan. The focus areas. BIMSTEC emphasizes connectivity and economic integration across the Bay of Bengal region. Okay, the focus area of BIMSTEC is mainly connectivity and economic integration. And BIMSTEC has been more active and less politically constrained. Okay, it's more active. Okay, it's a more proactive group and is less politically constrained than as compared to SARC, which is hindered by the India-Pakistan tensions. Because if the Pakistan is not in the BIMSTEC grouping, okay, so then the resistance or the conflicts between the Indian-Pakistan tensions will not spill over to the entire grouping. Now, India's foreign policy objectives that the BIMSTEC it strengthens India's Act East policy by connecting it with Southeast Asia. Okay, so we had the Look East policy. Now, after 20 years, that was converted into a Act East policy, so that we need to increase our reach on the um, we need to increase our reach in these South East Asian countries or the East Asian countries. Okay, so the BIMSTEC grouping, India being a member of the BIMSTEC grouping, it strengthens India's Act East policy and it promotes regional connectivity, trade, and maritime cooperation. And these three are the pillars of India's neighborhood policy, also. Okay, in its nearby region, that is, the focus is on connectivity, trade, and the maritime cooperation. And it reduces dependence on SARC, very importantly. Okay, the BIMSTEC provides us an alternative route. Okay, so that we can bypass the political roadblocks, okay, that are created by the Pakistan, the India-Pakistan conflict. Okay, so that we can cooperate with the like-minded countries without the political roadblocks or the political conflicts. Okay. So in conclusion, we can summarize the answer by writing the BIMSTEC complements rather than parallels the SARC. Okay, so we cannot say that these are the two parallel groups. Okay, these are not two parallel groups, but BIMSTEC complements SARC. Okay, it effectively aligns with India's vision of regional stability. It means the BIMSTEC. We are talking about BIMSTEC. So BIMSTEC effectively aligns with India's vision of regional stability, economic integration, and greater engagement with East and Southeast Asia. Okay. Now, so that was the 5 questions that we have discussed now. So the answers, the model, these model